Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Ask Me Anything. I'm Alison Fisher. Episode 2. I'm joined by Kim Shaw. Kim, will you say hello?
Hello.
She does exist. She's on the other side of the camera. And I'm here tonight to answer your questions. And we had lots of fun before, so let's get started. Kim, fire away.
Okay, question from David Taraz. What steps can you take to improve your focus?
Oh, that's a good question. What steps can you take to improve your focus? Well, I find that in tournaments, sometimes you're playing and you can feel your heart racing in intense, pressure moments. So I think one of the things that you really focus on is your breathing. Take deep breaths, start to control your breathing. So that's one way, helps you focus. Another thing that I do is I try not to take my eyes off of the table. So it might be my opponent, I might be watching their stick, I might be watching just the table, the balls, and I'm not looking around the room. You'll never find me just sort of gazing around the room. So that's a really good thing that keeps me in focus. And obviously I've observed other players doing that. And I think a really good player at doing that is Ralph Souquet in the men's game. He just literally looks down at the floor. So whatever keeps you in the moment, just find anything that can help you focus. So they're two things that help me.
Okay, I've got a question from John Sumners. Mm-hmm. Did your stroke come naturally to you, or did you have to develop it?
That's a really good question because it's a long answer, and I think it was asked to me on Facebook. And I'm glad we're doing it here because it takes a long answer to that. So yes, it's a developed stroke. I went to Frank Callan, who's a coach in England, many years ago, and I went to him when I was 16 years old. He came up to my parents at a tournament and he said, I'd like to coach your daughter. And he was a very good coach who coached many top professional snooker players. And I went to him for a weekend in Blackpool, which was where he was based. And that was where we worked on putting a pause, like a hesitation, at the back of my stroke. I think one of the only US players that I've seen really do that is Buddy Hall, which is quite interesting because most snooker players do that and very few pool players do that. So I went there for the weekend and that's all I worked on. And I saw him for a few weekends over time. And that was the focus, that hesitation. So he had me stroking every shot with a really long pause at the back of my stroke. And what that does is that transitions your muscle groups, triceps and biceps, and also gets your eyes focused on the object ball when you're shooting. So it gives you, a bit more time to really look. Is that correct for pool? I don't know, because most pool players stop at the front of the stroke. So, you've got to find what works for you. And that's worked for me in two different sports. And it's something that I definitely developed and it took time. And another part of that story is it took me a few months before I played in my second World Championships in England. And I went to Frank, I think it was July, August, September, October, played the World Championships in October. I was practicing the hesitation and I was in tears doing it. My dad came home and said, what's wrong? I said, my little muscles are hurting. And he said, well, just keep going. You've got to trust in what you're doing. And by the time the World Championships came around, I felt like I couldn't miss. And it was all to do with timing. So it really helped, the timing of the stroke for me.
Okay, good. Oliver Cots.
Hello, Oliver, one of my students.
Oh, so you want to know if you turn your phone off?
That's what I just
during tournaments.
I was just going to say that to everyone. Can you please turn your phones off? During tournaments, yes, for the most part I do. Maybe after I play a match, I maybe make a call or whatever. But if I'm sitting in the chair during the matches, certainly the phone is off. And for the most part, I'm not really calling around or on the internet so much. So I think that is a distraction, and especially these days, more so, there's more distraction. I've seen teaching juniors playing, for example, and they're picking up their phones in between shots, and you can't really focus on what you're doing like that. So I would suggest that any time you are going to practice or play a match, just to switch off and really focus on what you're doing.
Nick Tenuto wants to know where he can find how much you charge for lessons.
Oh, you can private message me if you like, af@alisonfisher.com. I will be posting all of that very soon on the website and on Facebook. So yeah, please get in touch. I will get back into doing some travelling ones and probably my Alison Fisher Academy at some point in Charlotte. So yeah, that's really to just stay tuned, and it's nothing I've got set in stone right now, but I certainly will be doing that.
Michael Fortune wants to know, did you always use a two-piece cue, or was your snooker cue one piece?
Well, what I did, Michael, thank you for that question, was I brought my snooker cue out tonight. Now this is prehistoric. This is...
Did you dust it off?
This is this is vintage. This snooker cue, this was the snooker cue that I won most of my tournaments with in my career. And I did beat Kim Shaw at some point during that. And it's an old Horace Lindrum cue. And I was given this cue by one of my first coaches, Frank Sandell. They found this cue for me because when I walked into the club as a junior, I had a screw-on tip and a cue that was given to me when I was about 8 years old. So this was my first cue. It used to be a one-piece. But as you can see, it's been split at the 3/4 mark. And that's because back in the day, Steve Davis cut his cue in half one day and people were like, oh my gosh, and then everyone followed. But they didn't cut it in the middle of the cue. They cut it down here because, Steve was the most prominent and best player of all time during the 80s. So everyone copied what he did, including me.
He can do it. So
and it was much easier to carry around because everyone in England and all over the world was carrying a one-piece cue around with them. So I used to walk down to the Central Club in Peacehaven from home with a one-piece cue case, which looked a bit awkward at times. So it made life much easier. But in my pool career, you never see a 3/4 length cut. You see them usually cut in half, which is easier to carry. Maybe puts a bit more weight forward in the cue, which I like. And that depends on the joint that you have on your cue. So yeah, it just depends. And I don't think there's a right and wrong there. It's just what you like.
Randy Bragnon wants to know, when you miss a shot, do you put that thought away? He says that he tries, but it's not easy to do, but he does it.
Well done, Randy. You're doing the right thing. It's definitely not easy to do. I can tell you that. I, for example, played in a tournament this weekend in Louisiana at Emerald Billiards. We had a fantastic WPBA event. And I played Vivian in a hot seat match and I ended up losing 7-6. But I came back and in the final game, I played a shot incorrectly. I was a bit upset I did it, but I haven't forgotten it still that I should have done that shot instead of the one that I chose. So I don't think you really forget them. But in the moment, if you miss a shot, you need to put it straight away out of your head. And you can think about it and dwell on it later on or for the rest of your life if you want to. But in that moment, you need to be very focused and present. So just try and let go of everything during that time. But sometimes it's just not easy to do, but that's what we try to do.
Randy Irvin, open or closed bridge? Which do you find most comfort?
That's a good question. I'm mostly in open bridge. And my reason for that is I grew up playing snooker on a 12 by 6 foot table. And what I found is with the open bridge, which is like this in the air, of course, is that the visibility is very good right across the distance of a table. So I can see how much I'm bringing the cue tip back into my bridge hand. Whereas if I have that closed bridge, which I use that for draw shots more. If I have that, I lose visibility of the tip of the cue, and I like to see that. I like to see how much I'm coming back. So that's a personal preference, but 100% of my shots at snooker were with an open hand bridge. Now, I don't know what percentage it is. It's probably 10-20% at pool are with a closed bridge. And like I said, those are really the draw shots or things that I need a bit of accuracy and keeping the stick lower to the cloth.
Elizabeth Miltner McDaniels.
Hello, Elizabeth.
Do you have any pre-match rituals?
Not really. The funny thing is, before I go, my mum does this too. By the way, hi to my mum. Mum's watching from England, so hi, Mum, love you. We'll come back to that in a minute because I just got back from England. So pre-match, not really, but what I do is what my mum does is clean the house before I go away. Something totally unrelated to pool. I don't know what that is, whether it's just coming back to a nice, tidy house or whether it's just something that mentally takes me off of the game. I'm not really sure. But I probably need some psychiatric help with that.
I can vouch for that.
I'm not really sure, but that's what I do.
Okay, here's another one. What's the most common mistake people make in their technique?
Common mistake with technique is, one is jumping off a shot. Most people, like, they hit the ball and they lift up off a shot, so they've never got that vision of the shot, that mental picture. So staying down, I can see exactly what's happening with the tip of the cue, you know, my follow through, is it going through in a straight line? So I'm really learning a lot while I'm playing. Other things are maybe not following through enough with the cue stick, like snatching. So maybe hitting the ball and just stopping rather than coming right through the ball. You want the maximum speed on impact when you shoot the shot, so you don't want to be slowing down. So if you're jabbing at the ball, you're slowing down when you hit the ball. So you need that nice follow through.
Hal Johns wants to know, who is your biggest help as a teacher from America?
Well, we mentioned last time, and I wanted to come back to that, so thank you, Hal, for that question. I actually looked at some of the questions from last time, and I mentioned a couple of coaches that I had in snooker, which was Frank Sandow and Frank Callan. Then I came over here, and last time I mentioned doing a tour with Grady Matthews, but I also owe a lot to Mark Wilson at Lindenwood University, because Mark is firstly, top guy. His intentions are really good. He's a great sport. He's just a super guy to hang out with, and a great instructor. He's creating a lot of great players at Lindenwood University, great juniors. There's a good junior program there. And he's improved so many things in people's games, and he's got the right structure to teach. I believe in what he does, and we're very similar, like-minded people. So I've taught with Mark, and I've also had him work with me a little bit on my cueing, because I trust him, basically. So Mark, shout out for Mark Wilson.
Scott McDonald wants you to clean his house, FYI.
Well, as I'm slowing down, I might be looking for a few more jobs, but they come at a high price.
Excellent. Okay, Mike here. What is your number one way to fight fatigue while playing a long event, or even when it hits the middle of a set?
Not always easy. I mean, sometimes my eyes feel really heavy, and I can sometimes just close them and, you know, hopefully not go to sleep and start snoring. But, you know, I try and relax. Away from the table, I try and sleep a lot or be restful. I talked about this at the last talk that we did, that I will go and be on my own, just relax, try and shut my eyes, even if it's for moments. Sleep if I can in between matches, because there's a lot of mental energy used when you play pool, and that's just how it works for me best. Other than that, you've got to eat right. You might need snacks with you, like sometimes I take a little bit of chocolate in between. Something that's quick to eat, you know, that's inoffensive. Bananas are good, nuts and raisins, you know, just things that pick you up. You don't want to be too sugary because you get that high and low. I've made those mistakes before. So just, you know, things that pick you up that are easy to digest.
Christine McWater, what would you say to an adult who is just learning to play and sometimes gets nervous playing other people? How would you calm down?
Well, I've always found what's calming is if you have like a pre-shot routine that you do at the table, that keeps you very much grounded and into what you're doing as opposed to other people and what they're doing. So I think what's helped me over the years is knowing what I'm doing at the table. And that fills my head with good thoughts. So I'm not worried about what's going on around me. I'm not worried about cameras, people moving. If somebody in the audience moves, I will tend to stop and just wait and let them do what they need to do. If a camera is flashing or you get that little red light on a camera in your line of vision, I will just stand up. Sometimes you don't get the opportunity to do that because you might be on a shot clock. But I will always stop and then start again and refocus. But for a beginner, I think the first thing for you to do is to really think about creating a pre-shot routine, which I can talk about in a little bit. I'll come back to that, what I do at the table. And once you have that in your head, like you might go into a match and say, okay, now I'm just going to try and keep my head down for every shot. And that gives you a good positive thought, and that takes you away from everything else that's going on. So for a beginner, just work on some good fundamentals and just focus on those and not what somebody else is doing. You know, keep within yourself.
Chuck Nesbitt, he says, sometimes he uses a twist of my back wrist to get more action on a ball. Have you ever used this technique?
Chuck, that's very naughty. I wouldn't say that's really a technique. I have heard it called maybe backhand English, I think, maybe. But what I'm trying to do is always deliver the cue in a straight line. And if I'm trying to twist the cue with my hand, that cue isn't coming in a straight line. So no, I don't do that. What I do is I put the English, I address the ball exactly where I want to make contact with it. And then I concentrate on sending a cue in a nice straight line. And something that you can do at home and to help you in practice, and you can do it in a match, it doesn't matter. These are great, they don't cost much, right? And what you can do is put it on your cue stick. I usually put it about maybe where the bridge distance is, where I want the cue to pass over my bridge hand. You can see I've got a little white dot there on my cue, ring binder, book binder. And then what you do is when you're coming through the shot, if that's turning or twisting, that to me isn't a good stroke. So I want to keep that dot in a nice straight line from start to finish in my stroke. Sorry, you can't see it there. I have to learn where the camera is. You can see that. When I follow through, I want that to be on top and staying in a nice straight line. So that's how I would practice straight cueing. So the answer is no, I do not twist. And if I do, it's by accident, and I don't really want to do that. So I try to use a clock on the inside of the ball and the outside circle of the ball. I imagine 2 clocks, 1 tip of English and 2 tips of English. And I'll say to myself, all right, I'm going to hit this at 5 o'clock, and I know exactly where that is. And I'm trying to send that stick through in a straight line at that 5 o'clock, for example.
Perfect. Good.
I think Kim cut me off there.
I've learned something there. Okay,
Oh,
Stephanie,
no.
Stephanie Michelle Spano. As a beginner with goals of being a great player, would you recommend playing in high-level tournaments or to wait until she's a bit better?
That's a good one. I went through my paces really growing up, because I started out playing in a local club, and then they let me into the league. So I started playing league at 13 years old. And then I played in national tournaments, which over here I would probably say you should start playing in regional events, something that's close for you to get to, you know, is affordable, not going to hurt you financially. And then just see how you're doing. You know, if you're starting to win a lot or doing very well and consistent in those, then maybe you start going up to another level, which might be a national tour. You know, we have a WPBA tour, the Women's Professional Billiard Association tour. You can check that out. And some players come from regional tours or just try and qualify. We have a new system now where you can go to a WPBA event and qualify for the main event 2 or 3 days later. So, you know, if you want to try and play in the pro ranks, that's one thing. But personally, I would get confident and competent in my own region and then try a few national events. And then obviously if you get really good in nationals, then go to internationals. But I like working the way up the ladder. I think that's a good way of doing things.
John Jarvis, have you ever played in any 8-ball tournaments? And if so, how many have you won? If you've won some. Not
really. I played in the IPT 8-ball events years ago. I think I've played in a couple in England, like on an English pool, which is on a smaller table, smaller balls. And I've won a couple of events at that, but I don't really play 8-ball. It's not that I don't like it or anything, but when I came over here, we played 9-ball and 10-ball on tour, so that's predominantly what I play.
You like this name? Taylor, Life is Still Golden, Lightfoot.
I love that name.
And she's also a poet. She says,
oh.
What are the best drills to develop skills?
Very good poetry there. The best drills to develop skills. I mean, there's so many drills, and hopefully on my YouTube channel at some point in the near future, in 2 or 3 months, I would say that I'd be putting out lots of drills and doing them for you, and then, you know, maybe putting the level that you could start at and work your way up the ladder. But there's lots of straight in shots growing up. lots of, in snooker we did lineups, which I'll explain to you. I can't do it because we're not at a table now, but maybe on one of these chats we'll go to a table and do that from there. So there's lots of drills online, but you really want to do it pertaining to your level. You don't want to do things that are too difficult that would put you off right away. But what you do need to do is keep focus while you're doing them. Like if you lose your focus, then step away or try something else. Just to give you an example, when I was in England years ago training snooker, I used to do 4 hours a day of drills, and I used to write on a board maybe half an hour of this, an hour of this, 15 minutes of this, and I used to put a time limit on it so I wouldn't get too bored. Jason
Shaw says hello.
Hello, Jason.
And he also wants to know
Shaw.
how you chalk your cue. I thought he'd know how to do that by now, but there you go.
Jason. Is this the Jason Shaw?
I think so. It's with
the
Y.
Jason Shaw.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good one because a lot of people don't know how to chalk their cue. I don't know if he's having a laugh here, but let me grab some chalk. I'm going to demonstrate chalking the cue because most snooker players, funnily enough, if you look at their chalk, look at mine, there's not a hole in it, but if I show this, you can see a little cross going across it, yeah? You can see where it goes from one side to the other. And that's because I'm going to stand up and chalk my cue now. What we do is this. We take the cue and look at the cue tip when you're chalking it. A lot of people don't do that. Just chalk across the tip like that, around it. Then you're not getting it all over your hand. Because have you seen people who've got really dirty, look, clean? Excellent. But, so you're chalking across the tip and always looking at it if you can. Just, there's a lot of people just do this and do that, and that's terrible. It makes all the ferrule, the shaft messy, your hands messy, and you're actually not really getting a lot of chalk on the cue. So you want to make sure you're really covering the tip and chalking across. And it also makes the chalk last longer. So thank you, Jason, for bringing that up, because I think that's a really good point.
Okay, I've got a funny one here from Tammy Baker.
Tammy, how you doing?
How do you recommend teaching a stubborn person trying to learn new techniques?
Are we talking about ourselves, I think? Delicately, I guess.
Excellent.
I don't know how, let me just think about that. Well, I would have to become a bit bossier than you, I suppose, if you're not doing it right. So I'd have to really tell you what to do and make you do it.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Simple as that.
Kathleen Mueller.
Mm-hmm.
If you are behind in a match, what positive self-talk do you say to yourself to keep a positive attitude? What do you do?
Well, there's lots of things you can do. Firstly, like I've been behind many times in a match. I always stay very present. That's the first thing, because anything can change at any time. And it often does. You can be in the middle of a match and then somebody could be playing against you and they're flying, they're not missing a ball. Then all of a sudden they miss a ball, and that's the turning point of the match. If you make the most of it, that is the turning point. So I think if you're behind, all you can do is one ball at a time, one game at a time. So it's literally one ball, one ball, one ball, one ball, right? And don't think ahead. Don't think too far ahead. You know, if I do this, I'm going to do that. Don't put any pressure on yourself. You know, have no expectation. Just stay very present and shoot one ball at a time. So that's the best thing, I think, coming from behind, if you're behind. And then positivity. You can think about all the good things in your life too. You could sit there in a chair and remember at the end of the day, it's a game. Of course, we all want to win and we want to do our best. But at the end of the day, it's a game or a sport. You know, it creates all these emotions in you. And I think to sit back and enjoy the fact that you are sitting there and able to go through all those emotions. So when you're sitting in the chair, if you could take it in and say, this is really special moment, as much as I'm under pressure or feeling down a bit, I'm really lucky to be here. So you can put yourself into good places like that. You can think of your family, you know, your friends, have a laugh, a little funny moment in your mind that springs to mind that keeps you, you know, in a happy state of mind, not always under pressure. So there's just different ways of doing it, and it depends on the time.
Jason Shaw is going to buy you a drink for teaching him how to chalk a tip.
Oh, thank you, Jason. I wonder what I should drink.
Jocelyn Audette
Yes.
says, how do you cope with a loss? Do you analyse it? What's your approach?
Well, it depends on the loss, because there have been some that are more severe than others, some that can really be a bit heart-wrenching sometimes, very emotional sometimes, you know. So I think you have to walk away from every loss learning something, whether it's about yourself, the way you behave in a situation, whether it's about improvement of your technique, whether it's about your shot selection choice not being great. I think the key thing is to be realistic. You know, why did you miss it? Why did you play a bad shot? You've just got to be real with yourself. And yeah, that's the thing. So after, I know, like I said earlier, in a recent match I was playing, I know exactly the balls that I missed. I know why I missed them. And hopefully that won't happen again. It probably will, because it's going to. But I know exactly what I did and what I need to change for next time. And often it's being committed to the shot and what you're doing, fully committed. Because sometimes you get down, you're under a bit of pressure, and you're not fully committed. You shoot a shot in two minds. You see, I could do this and I could do that, and you end up somewhere in between. So that's the majority of reasons that we make the mistakes on shots, is that we're not fully committed.
So if there's one shot in your career that you could change, just one.
Oh gosh.
Is there one that sticks out? Like
Yeah.
in the final?
There are shots that stick out, that's for sure. Playing Vivian years ago in the ESPN Ultimate Challenge, and the winner, it was 1996. That's how long ago it was, and I still remember it. There were two shots, but the one shot that really stands out, I was playing a 7-ball to get on the 8-ball, and I played it like a snooker player, because I'd just come over from snooker and I wasn't really playing 3-rail shots when I needed to get position, and I played it 2 rails and hooked myself behind the 8-ball, I think it was. And that was a big game. I think we were at 5 each, and that was a big game, so that really turned the match, and that match was worth $60,000. But not only that, the winner of that match went on to play CJ Wiley in another challenge, Battle of the Sexes, which I would love to have done, because that I was used to playing men at snooker, so I felt like I could have done really well in that match. That would have been a fun match to play. So that was why that one really hurt. In fact, I might start crying.
Did Vivian win or did CJ win?
CJ won it.
Oh.
I think I could have taken him.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Tulloch Scott wants to know.
Unusual name.
That is. It's a guy. Do you like your opponents to wear headphones or not?
No.
Good.
It's not allowed in the pro arena, and no, I don't. I mean, I don't think it's a fair thing to have. I think you should all cope with the noises around you, the people around you. That's just my thoughts on it. It doesn't look professional. Yeah.
Greg Mayo, do you prefer playing opponents who are all serious and business and never lighten the mood during a match? Or do you like playing players like Vivian who are very animated and chatty at times?
I don't really mind either way. I like seriousness, because I'm very serious when I play, and I find it hard to break that. I can do it, but I don't like to, because being at the table is like being at an office for me. You know, it's like that's where I get in my mindset and get serious. Sometimes it can be a little bit off-putting when you're playing people who are, you know, jokey, and some people need the audience. Like Vivian is one of those players that entertains the audience, but it's really she's bringing them into herself. And the same with Jeanette. They like the audience behind them. It's an energy thing. I don't mind not entertaining that, but I could go either way with that. It's kind of nice because you can feel more relaxed, but at the same time, I just like that little bit of edge of seriousness, and I like that from my opponent. And in snooker, that is what you get. So I grew up with that. It's very, very serious, and there's not many light-hearted moments in snooker.
Robert Wilson wants to know if you've got any plans to play within 200 miles of Nashville. I've had a couple of people asking about Nashville.
So we need to put the dart on the Nashville and then 200 miles around it.
Big
Not in
piece of
the near future. Yeah, not in the near future, but stay tuned. I don't have any plans at the moment.
Heather Clatter wants to know, what's your pre-shot routine and do you ever change it if you aren't playing well?
That's a really good question. Pre-shot routine. So there's a physical and a mental routine at the table. Just in a nutshell, a physical routine. The mental routine is when you go up to the table, you're looking at the table, and then you're kind of deciding what shot you're going to play. You're seeing the layout of the table, thinking about the first, second, and third shot, the 1, 2, 3, for example. And then you visualize it. You imagine cue ball hitting object ball and where you want the cue ball to land. You might walk around the table and really have a good look at the angle of the next shot. And then you visualize that happening. And then the physical routine, which is walking into the shot, finding the line of the shot, hand down on the table, get a really good strong bridge, get the cue on the bridge, and then start moving to your own rhythm, your own stroke. And then whatever you do, for me, it's a slow backswing, a hesitation, eyes on the object ball, follow through, stay down, look at where that cue stick is. So that's like physical routine in a nutshell. Of course, another time I'll take you through that at the table. So there's two things, physical and mental routine. And then what was the second part of that? I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, what's your pre-shot routine? And do you ever change it if you aren't playing well?
Yeah, if you're not playing well, there's little things you do to tweak it. Like if I'm down on a shot, and let's just say I've played it with spin and I see the ball going off course a little bit more than I'd planned, deflection or throw, depending on the shot, then I might adjust my stance a little bit, or, there's just little tweaks that you do when you get to know the way you play. Might be stance, it might be cue on the chin, under the eyes. So I just pay attention. It's always important to pay attention what that cue ball's doing when you hit it.
Pam Hack.
Hi, Pam.
Do you like a fast or slow table?
That's a good question, because a slow table, and I'm not talking too slow, right? A match table, usually we play on Simonis 860, let's say, and that sort of speed is a nice speed. A very fast table might be an 870, I think it is. I'm not 100% sure. It has more nylon in it. And no, sorry, 760. There's 860, which is a slower 760, came back to me. Is too fast for me. So, and diamond tables, sometimes I've played on them where they with the cloth and everything and humidity, they're just boom, 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 boom. You don't know where the ball's going to stop. So if it's too fast, it's almost impossible. On a slow table, I like letting the stroke out more. So that's a good thing, because I have quite a long stroke. But what you've got to be able to do is learn to adjust that short stroke and long stroke for the equipment that you're playing on. So you're not going to have a really long stroke on a 7-foot table or a really fast cloth. So you have to learn about your stroke in order to adapt it on what you're playing on.
Dan Werner.
Hi, Dan.
What shots do you shoot for warm-up?
I think lots of straight-in shots for warming up. I like to see that I'm cueing in a nice straight line, because that makes me feel good about alignment. And then the other thing is cut shots down the rail. What you're doing is just adjusting your eyes and your stance to making sure you're seeing the edge of the ball. And then maybe a few spin shots where you're putting some spin on the ball, making sure you're getting your deflection right when you're coming through the ball. So just a few things like that.
And Phil Woodwiss, did your snooker background help with you adapting to play pool?
Yes.
Adapting.
Did my snooker background help adapt to play pool? There's absolutely no doubt about that, because snooker is a game of really good technique and really good sound fundamentals. So we play snooker on a 12 by 6 foot table, smaller pockets and smaller balls. So it's much easier to make balls on a 9-foot pool table coming over from snooker. However, you do need to learn a few other things when you play pool, like how the rails kick, how to bank, just how the rails respond and react, the heavier cue ball. So there are some differences, but I think shot making and fundamentals from snooker have helped me become a better pool player for sure. Now, is it all perfect in the way, is that transition right for pool? Somewhat, I think. I can see some times where I've made some minor changes and they've worked too. So I tend to try lots of different things and see what really sits for me and that, that I feel comfortable with.
Hi,
my mum's here. My mum joined the chat. So hi, Mum. I don't know if you saw me earlier. So welcome to the chat. Guess what I've got in my cup? Yeah, it's a nice cup of tea from England.
Let's see if anybody got the right. Do you mention your cue?
Okay. Let's see. On my next live chat, which you'll have to stay tuned, what I'd like to do is have people sign up on the alisonfisher.com website on a mailing list, if you would, because then you can follow about the cues. This is my new line of cues made by Joe P. Chower. It's my own line, which is a custom cue. You can buy these in any length you want, so it doesn't matter. There's no upcharge. And the reason I did that, I wanted to talk about this actually, was look at my snooker cue. Now I'm going to step back a little bit. My snooker cue is 54 inches long. You can see it's roughly about shoulder height. Okay, and my snooker cue, I hold all the way at the back of the butt like that. And that's how the hand should fall when you're holding a cue. Straight down, you can see that perpendicular to the cue, okay? So 54 inches playing on a 12-foot table, and most snooker players play with their hand all the way at the end of the cue. When I came over here and playing pool, most pool players are playing sort of here on the grip. My pool cue is 56 inches. This particular cue in my hand is 58 inches. Can you see the difference? So every cue that's made over here is 58 inches for anyone. Doesn't matter how tall or short you are. So many times I've been into pool rooms and I've seen maybe some shorter players with their hand up here and all this cue out the backhand. Therefore, the balance isn't right and they're dragging weight of the cue. So that's no good. And then on the other hand, really tall players all the way off, nearly off the end of the cue. So I've really developed this line so that your hand is always sitting in the right position. So there'll be more information on what length of cue is right for you. So I'm 5 feet 4 inches and I'm using a 56-inch cue at the moment. So, go to alisonfisher.com or alisonfishercues.com if you want to learn more about that. And my cue line ranges from $300 up to $2,200 for limited editions. So I'm doing a giveaway, and on the next live chat, I'm going to think of 3 questions to ask you, and the winners will be put into a hat, hopefully a big hat. Talking of hats, we'll come back to that story in a second. And we'll be doing a giveaway, and I will be announcing it. So I'm on the following chat. But anyway, talking of eating hats, I played this shot. Kim Shaw, right, who's sitting opposite me, is our questionnaire for tonight. Kim and me were playing in a tournament, and I was playing her in this match, and she got me in this really, 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 really difficult snooker that nobody would get out of.
It was the best snooker in the world.
She said it's the best snooker in the world and the best snooker of her life. She hid me right behind the ball, and I said, I'm gonna get out of this. And she said, well, if you get out of this, and there was a guy in the audience, she said,
wearing a hat.
He was wearing a hat, and she said, do you want to tell the story?
What I said was, if you hit this ball, and I turned to the guy, I said, I will eat your hat. That's
what she said. And guess what? I did. I hit the ball.
Yeah.
I went 4 rails and hit the ball.
And I said, does anybody have any salt and pepper?
So she asked for some salt and pepper.
I didn't eat the hat.
No, it's a bit awkward because you don't know where it's been, do you really?
But that was a very good shot.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You beat me up.
That shot was about 15 years ago, but I still remember it like it was yesterday.
I do.
I just don't remember yesterday anymore.
Right, should we do one more question?
Should we take another question?
Talk about England or?
Oh, I just got back. Yeah, this is what's been happening lately. I took an 11-day break to England. I went to see the family. So hi to Dave and Sal and Kate and Eve, if you're watching.
Dave is watching.
Dave is watching, brother Dave.
Eve is watching.
Eve, I had a wonderful time. we did so many things. Went to London for a couple of days. Went to the aquarium in London, very special place. Gosh, where did we go? Tower of London. We went and did a changing of the guard foot tour. It was absolutely fantastic. Saw Buck Pow. That's Buckingham Palace for people who don't know. Hello to England, by the way, everyone from England tuning in, because I think we had a lot of people from before.
Did you go on the wheel?
I didn't go on the wheel. I've been on the London wheel before, and it is worth it, but I've done that before.
The biggest toy store in the world?
Took Pearson and Lily to the biggest toy store in the world, which is Hamleys, near Piccadilly. Hi, Dave. And what else? A river cruise down the River Thames, looking at all the sites. It was absolutely fantastic. Got back last Tuesday from England and then drove to the WPBA event in Louisiana on Thursday, which took 18 hours, which was ridiculous. We got in the car, Gerda and me, Gerda Hofstetter and me. We got 6 hours into the trip. It was all going well, and then we had a flat tyre. Useless women, didn't change the tyre.
Oh, you didn't?
We called people out. There was a guy at the service station who said, would you like us to change your tyre? And then we thought, well, we can't do another 6 hours on a donut, right?
Right, yeah.
But we didn't think it through. We could have just driven to a tyre place locally. But Gerda had already called for help, for them to come and tow you. Anyway, it all went wrong. It was bad decision making. It was hot out. It was like 100 degrees. It wasn't a good day. And then 4 hours it took us. And then we got back on the road and got to Louisiana at 11 o'clock at night. It was a long trip. And then we got back from Louisiana on Monday.
But you made it to the final?
I made it to the final. Mm-hmm. I was very tired. I got sick while I was there. I had like a cold or something it was very hot outside, and then it'd be hot and cold inside. So I didn't feel the greatest, but Vivian won the tournament. She played really well against me. So next time I'll come back even better. But I really enjoyed it. I played April Larson, one of our junior players, and we went 7-6, and it was a really fantastic match. I was very proud of April and the way she played in that match.
You taught her, didn't you?
Well, April is a great player in her own right, and she came to me and we spent a couple of days together training, so that was fun. But she's a great person and coming on a lot, so watch out for April.
I don't know where Belize is, but somebody's watching from there.
Wait, Belize?
Is it Belize? B-E-L-I-Z-E.
Belize?
Belize.
Oh dear, can't take her anywhere. Hello, Belize. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
One more question?
Yeah, please fire away.
Let's have a little, hang on, let me scroll through.
I enjoy my little chats.
Can
I just say one that's come on the line here? Denise Belanger in Canada. Hi Denise, how you doing? Are you ever going to write a book? I actually would like to write a book. And maybe all of you out there can write back to me and say what you would like me to write about. Because there's obviously, you could do a biography, life story, you could do pool book, you could mix it in together. So I would like your feedback. If you'd like to write back on Facebook, please, if there's any input that you might have, I'd like to hear it, because if I do a book, I want everyone to be satisfied with it. So I'd like to do that.
Good.
Oh, I see. Hi, Charlene, Chai in Singapore. Nice to see you on here.
Yeah.
Lots of good memories.
Calgary's watching.
Calgary? Is it Joey? And
no, it isn't. We've got Texas, we've got Ohio.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We're having a great time here. Kim Shaw's with me, going through some of your questions.
I am, yeah.
Do you have any more for today?
Most people just congratulating you on your great success.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been a good career so far.
Anthony O'Connor says hello from Cork Island.
I remember Anthony. How are you? Long time no see. Oh. Like we're talking 25, 30 years. Still here. Oh, yeah, I remember Anthony. We played trying to qualify at the WPBSA, isn't it? World Professional Billiards and Snooker Association. Yeah. He's a great guy. I liked him.
And Sally. Hi from Hove, actually.
Hove, actually. Hi, Sound. How you doing? Of course, it's Hove, actually.
Alaska.
Brilliant. Welcome, Alaska.
Randy Bragman says this is a great idea, so we'll continue to do this. When's our next one?
We like to do this. I'll tell you what I might do, and give me your feedback again, because some people are missing it, but it will be on Facebook. You can still go and tune into it tomorrow, whenever. It'll still be there. So please share, tell your friends. We will be doing this, and tell me if you want it on a weekend. I mean, I can do that too. So if it's not convenient on a week, I've tried to pick a time where maybe different parts of the world can tune in. So yeah, there's different times, different days of the week. Please let me know, because I'm open to everything.
Rick Donner says, all he put, do you know Rick?
Yeah, I know Rick.
The Mini Cooper story, lol. That's
right. So what that is, I'm going to tell that story.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell that story. The Mini Cooper. So we drove up to my brother and my mum will appreciate this. But we were at a tournament. We were going up to a tournament in Leicester.
I'm going to make a cup of tea.
Kim's going to put on the kettle. If anyone wants a cup of tea, I'd love a cup of tea.
I'll make a cup of tea.
Right. So while I'm telling this story, so when I was about, 18 years old, let's say, 19 years old, we were going up to Leicester for a tournament. Now, I lived all the way in the south of England, so Leicester would have been about 4 or 5 hour drive probably. My dad had a beat-up old car, Fiat 132, a bit rusty. We left, and about an hour into the trip, Gatwick Airport, we broke down. And this is where it's lovely to have mothers, because my mum reached into her bag and she pulled out these coupons that she'd been saving. And it was 2-for-1 tickets on the rail to going by train up to Leicester. So 2 for the price of 1. So there was my dad, my mum, my brother and me. So we got our tickets. We went up to Leicester with all our luggage and the one-piece queue. Played in the tournament. My mother, right? I got through to Sunday, so we've spent the money Friday night, Saturday night, which, you know, back in those days was a lot, to stay over, enter the tournament, all the expenses. And my mum, after I came off the semi-final, and she didn't look too happy, and I'm like, what's going on with my mum? Anyway, I end up playing the final, and I win the final. And I'm absolutely delighted. I've just won like a national tournament in England. And I go over to my mum and she looks a bit upset. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she goes, I was praying for you to lose.
To lose in the semis?
In the semi-final. And I'm like, what do you mean? She said, well, it's like 11 o'clock at night and the last train's gone and Dad, Dave and me have got work tomorrow. And how are we going to get back? And I'm like, oh, didn't think of that. Selfish me. So now what? So we're like sitting there wondering what to do, and then there was a little voice at the end of the counter saying, I'll give you a ride home. And it was a lady called Serena Sinanen. I don't know if she's still around, and she lives in Portsmouth. Does anyone know Serena Sinanen? She was in Portsmouth, right? That was where last seen in Portsmouth when she dropped us off in Pisa. So anyway, we go out to the country. She said, I'll give you a ride back, no problem. So we all walk out to her car, and what's she got? She's got the smallest car in England, a Mini Cooper. My brother's 6 feet tall. My dad was near enough that, a little bit shorter. There was Serena, my mum, our one-piece queues up the centre, and we all piled into a Mini Cooper, and she drove us all the way back, all the way across London, all the way down to the south of England.
Was it like 3 or 4 hours?
Oh God, it was longer than that. Probably 5 or 6 hours.
Wow.
Dropped us off. We said, would you like a cup of tea? She said, no, I'm going home. And then she drove off another hour or 2 to Portsmouth along the coast. And then my mum and dad and brother went to work, and I probably went to bed and had a nice rest with the trophy. But yeah, that's the Mini Cooper story. Thank you, Rich, for bringing that up. That was a funny one. They were the good old days. Yeah.
You did your time, didn't you?
I can hear the kettle boiling.
You did your time. I'm going to make tea.
We had lots of fun times back in those days. And I remember a lot of, I see some of them are tuned in. And I remember last time Jason Pegram tuned in. And it was we had a lot of fun back in those days with the old family and family trips. My brother coming along. I remember my brother and me, we used to drive along. And then when a good song came, we used to play Lloyd Cole and the Commotions back in the day. And we'd stop the car on the hard shoulder and start dancing on the way to a tournament. He remembers that. We don't often admit to that now.
You need to be a bit crazy.
Yeah, you need to be. I was a bit crazy when I was younger. But it was so much fun, growing up playing snooker and lots of good laughs. And it's the same in pool. It's a lot of fun playing pool, a lot of great players out there. And it's been really wonderful, I think. Last 30, I couldn't be in a better career, to be honest with you. The good fun, a lot of pressure, but also so many good memories. Somebody says, Randy says, have you been in Mother's Billiards lately? Well, you're referring to Mother's Billiard Parlour in Charlotte. When I first came to Charlotte back in 1995, it was the first tournament I ever played, and it was in Mother's Billiard Parlour. And it doesn't exist anymore. They built a light rail in Charlotte that went right across that strip of town. So Mother's doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. And I remember, I think I saw Kelly Oyama tuning in on one of the other broadcasts, and she used to own that ballroom. And I played in Charlotte. She invited me to stay with her family. I ended up staying in Charlotte, which is where I am right now. Quick question for you, Kim. Denise Blanchet asks, is Kim coming back to play? I hope not.
Kim is coming out of retirement. I'm going to play in the tournament in November.
Do you hear that, Denise? She's coming out of retirement. She's going to start practicing now and coming to the...
Dusting off my cue, putting on a new tip.
And that would be the Texas Tornado Open, I believe. She's coming to a tournament. I think she's already got a partner for that. I do believe it's Kim Shaw and Tony Robles, which would be a great partnership. So, yeah, she's coming out in November to play in that in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Yeah.
My partner will be, drum roll.
Hang on.
Are you ready for this? John Morrow. That's my man. That's my man. We're going to partner up again. So that should be a lot of fun.
You and I should start practicing.
Yeah, she wants to start practicing with me. I hope you didn't tune into that first broadcast when we talked about she was the last player to beat me at snooker.
Oh, here's a question. I don't know if anybody asked it. They did ask about playing. Is it good to practice with better players?
That's a good question, because I think it is, as long as you don't get demoralised. I think it's good to play. I think the ideal would be to play somebody who's slightly better than yourself. I think a mix of players is really good, to be honest with you. Because what you want to do is, even if somebody's a lot worse than you, let's say, you want to play those players too, because how many times in a match have you played people and then you get dragged down? I've heard that a lot, where players have been dragged down. They played somebody who's not as good as them, and for some reason, maybe they've been complacent, maybe they've taken too many shots on, whatever it is. So it's important to play everyone, and then play really good players who are probably going to kill you, but you're going to learn things. And I heard recently Efren Reyes likes to play amateurs a lot just because he learns new things. That's an interesting comment from one of the greatest players that ever lived. So maybe he's seeing them do crazy things around the table that maybe they don't know what they're doing, but he sees something in it. I don't know. So that was an interesting comment. Hi, Brittany. How you doing? It was lovely to see you at the tournament. Played well. It was a great tournament for you. Kimmy, any other questions?
Yeah. How do you control jump shots? Do you use the force? I don't know what that means. May
the force be with you. I use the force? Mm-hmm. The key to a good jump shot, I have 3 different methods. I use the one where you're like a dart from here. I'll have to demonstrate that at a table. It looks a bit weird here when I'm sitting down. Then I do the one like that. You've seen that on one of my videos, I think, on my channel here. And then the sideways one. So I've got actually 3 different methods that I use for different things. So if I'm really close up to a ball, I like to use the dart method, where it's kind of here alongside my face. Because what I find is that gets the ball up and over more immediately. So I like that. The key to a good jump is a very loose grip here, whether it be in 2 fingers and the thumb. It's just very loose wrist, and just let the wrist do the work. And I actually don't probably have the back 2 fingers on the cue. So that's a big key to the jump shot. I think Kim's learning something here. She's practicing it in the background.
I am, yeah, with my tea.
Yeah, so when we get to a table at some point, I will demonstrate that, what I mean.
Kathy Jo Sawyer Almanza is also having tea in Texas.
Excellent.
Right now. Yeah.
Oh, cheers.
Even though it's 100 degrees there.
Well, you can't beat a nice cup of tea. But I do say I do like to drink it hot, because I'm English. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. We don't do cold tea.
That's what we do. And we chat. We have tea and chat.
And do you know what the English do? It doesn't matter what you're going through in life. A cup of tea always makes you feel better. Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
And preferably a digestive biscuit. That's a cookie.
We have some. Okay, Marty Herman.
Marty, how you doing?
When did you play your first WPBA event? Where and how did you finish?
My first WPBA event.
First, yeah.
Was at Mother's Billiard Parlour in Charlotte, September of 1995. I finished 9th and I lost to Ava and Jeanette. And I finished 9th. So it wasn't bad, but I did learn a lot because I made some silly errors there. I had a 3-ball, I think my brother was laughing at that story. I had a 3-ball combo and I didn't see it. So there were things that I was missing still, coming over from snooker. So that was that. And then a week later we went down to Florida and I actually won the next event. So obviously I learned quite quickly a lot of points of the game. So
did you play with your snooker cue?
No, I did use a pool cue. I was using a Q-Tech cue way back then.
Yeah. Martha Watts. Hi, Martha.
Martha, our friend in Oregon.
She wants to know if you have a sponsor.
No, I don't, actually. I don't have a sponsor, believe it or not. That's I didn't pay her to say that.
No.
I don't. I'm looking for sponsors. But the Q line is my own line with Joe P. Chow. So Joe's not actually sponsoring me. We're a partnership in it. So that actually is my own line. So yeah, if anyone out there is interested, I'm always looking to partner up with people. So good question, Martha. Thank you.
Oh, here's one about the stance. I love the stance.
The stance.
Kenny C. It's HSI is his last name. Hi, Alison. When you step up for a shot, which foot do you step into the shot first? Is that the same foot you normally use first when putting your pants on, socks, and shoes as well?
Yes.
Okay, good. Moving on.
No, to start, I actually line up with my right foot on the shot. And yeah, what you're doing, Kenny, is making me think about it, aren't you? That is a good question. I'll have to come back to that. Like, what do I step into pants with? Yeah. And socks and shoes. But good question. You told me you're going to make me laugh in that. You didn't tell me what the question was going to be, but I like that.
A lot of people want to know what tip you use. I think we said it last time, but they weren't tuning in.
At the moment, I've got a Kamui Soft, which plays like a medium feel. I don't like really soft tips because I don't like them too spongy. That doesn't give me any feel for the shot. I don't like a hard tip because I don't like the sound of it. And something Gerda once said at one of our pool schools was to our pupils that we were teaching. She said, "Seek the sound of your stroke," which I thought was really cool. So I really like that comment because and what I mean by that is that you can hear when you hit the ball late and when you hit it early. Like if you hit it too late, you're almost hearing like the ferrule sound, or maybe you're almost at that miscue point. So yeah, seek the sound of your stroke. But at the moment, it's a Kamui Soft.
Do you teach classes?
So
Mark Ripperda, do you teach classes?
I do teach classes. I will put more about that on my website, alisonfisher.com. I don't have any plans for the near future, but they certainly will be coming soon. I will be travelling more and doing some things, so keep an eye out. Please go to alisonfisher.com for more information, alisonfishercues.com if you want to look at my cue line. And you can follow me on Instagram too. I'm Alison Fisher. And I really enjoy these talks. I think we're going to wrap it up with the last question because it's Kim's bedtime.
It is, thank you. All right, now you put me under pressure to find the last question. Okay. Okay, what do you use? This is from John Hank. What do you use for a break cue?
At the moment, I haven't found my perfect break cue yet. I'm going to try Joe P. Chow's new cue that's coming out. I'm going to have a go with that. But at the moment, I've been using a Mez break cue. So that's what's been going on right now. But it's just, I'm not quite finding my perfect break cue yet. That's something that I'd like to develop in my cue line at some point. So that was a good question, actually. Yeah, please tell your friends about this. Please share this, because I want this to get out. I like to talk about the game and lots of other things. So if you want to share it with anyone, please feel free to do so. You can also, it will still be up on my Facebook page forevermore, probably, and also on my YouTube page if you want to follow that. And I do look forward to doing some videos at the table, which will be available at some point in the near future. So please check in with that. And as I said, next time we're going to be doing a giveaway of one of these cues. So please tune in on the next chat. And I look forward to seeing you. Thank you, Kim, for helping me out again.
You're welcome.
She's part of the furniture, part of this, makes it all go smoothly.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah. Bye-bye, family. Bye-bye, friends. Bye-bye, world. And we will see you next time. Thanks so much. Good night and God bless.